Hello and welcome to Building Tactics. In this video, I'm going to show you how I make and install stone veneer. Let's get started. So to make the stone veneer, I use molds. I purchased this set with 14 molds in it. If you want more patterns, you can purchase different patterns of molds. I also use the Qickrete cement coloring. I have about 5 different colors. Also, you use vegetable oil as a releasing agent. You can purchase a releasing agent for this molds, but vegetable oil works great. I wipe the molds down with the vegetable oil. That helps it release after the rock is set up. Next, I mix water with the pre-measured amount of coloring. I then use 1 scoop of Portland cement to approximately 1/3 bag of mortar mix. Now, depending on how many molds you have, you may use more or less of the mortar mix per batch. I would recommend ordering more molds if possible. That way you can use more mortar mix and make larger quantities of rock at one time. You don't want the consistency of your mortar to be too thick. You want it to be a little thin so you can pour it into the molds. After pouring the cement into the molds, I shake the molds or vibrate the molds. This is to work the cement down to the bottom of the molds and to push the air bubbles up. As you can see, as you shake it, the air bubbles come to the top of the cement. Most of the time you can get all the air bubbles out, but there are times where you will still have air bubbles and they will show on the face of the rock. As you can see, the mixture is thin. If it were thick, you would not be able to work it into the mold or get the air bubbles out. Next, I use a 1/8 inch tile trowel to score the back of the rock. This will help the mortar adhere to the rock when I go to install it. You can also use a 1/4 inch tile trowel. You will want to let the mortar set up just a little before you trowel it. If you try to trowel it too soon, it will be too wet and the trowel marks will not stay. After cement sets up, I remove the rock from the molds and I turn them face up. This will allow the air and the sun to help cure the rock. As you can tell, these are a little brittle. That's because they need to cure a little bit more, but once they cure, they will be good to go. Weather conditions are an important factor in this process. If it is too cold or too wet outside, then it will affect how long it takes to set up. I have previously installed synthetic felt over the wall and then a layer of what is called lath mesh. This mesh is used for stone and masonry work when attaching it to like a wooden wall. This lath has to be turned a certain way in order for the rock to adhere to it correctly. If you run your hand down it and it slides smooth, you have it turned the wrong way. So to install the rock, I place mortar around the edges of the rock, and in the middle there's going to be a void with no mortar on it. When you put the rock on and you push it in, the mortar will work its way to the center. Some masons don't like the idea of placing the stone directly on the mesh without a scratch coat. A scratch coat is just simply a thin layer of cement all over the mesh, and then you put a scratch marks on the cement, and then the rock adhere to the scratch coat. Now I've tried this procedure several times, and it has worked out fine with me with no problems. If you think that it's a better technique to use the scratch coat, then go ahead and use the scratch coat. It just depends on which way you want to put the rock on. As you can see, when I place the rock onto the mesh, I kind of move it a little bit and then hold it for a few seconds. And this gives the mortar time to adhere to the mesh. Sometimes you have to hold it longer. And if your mortar is mixed too thick, it will not stick correctly. If it's mixed too thin, the rock will just simply slide off. You have to get your mortar consistency just right. To fill mortar between the stone, I use a grout gun. You have to mix the mortar pretty thin for it to go through the grout gun. So as I squeeze the grout gun, it goes between the cracks and it builds up. I let it set for just a few minutes, and then I take either a piece of small metal or even a piece of wood would work. Just something to smooth it out. And then after I smooth it out the way I want it, then I take a brush and I finish off with a brush that gives it a nice clean look. If you have a concrete wall or concrete block that you want to install rock on, you can install these rock straight to the concrete without a scratch coat or any mesh. You just simply make the rock, put the mortar on the back, and stick it onto the concrete or the concrete block. This process is a very time-consuming process, and one key thing that you have to have is patience. If you get in a hurry and try to rush, you could run into issues. Also, if you don't have a lot of time to do this, I would not recommend doing this process. From making the rock to installing the rock and then grouting in between the rock takes a lot of time. That's something to consider if you are thinking about doing this process. But on the other hand, you can save a lot of money. The cost of doing stone veneer this way is a whole lot cheaper than going out and buying pre-made stone veneer. Okay, that's it. That's how I make and install stone veneer. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel and share the video. And thanks for watching Building Tactics.